Wheel spacers are a bit of a controversial topic. Actually, they're a pretty heated, controversial topic.
Unacceptable!
Some love them and say they're a great device for adjusting the offset of your wheels, especially if you miscalculated and bought the wrong wheel offset. And maybe even more importantly, the wheels you want didn't offer the offsets that you need. Others say wheel spacers were created by frickin' Satan himself and should never ever be used due to their potential to cause harm to your vehicle. It isn't that simple, however. While there are various things that can go wrong, it really comes down to what you are buying and what you're trying to actually do with them. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Fitment Industries Garage. I'm Sean B.fi on Instagram, and today we're going to be discussing whether or not you should buy spacers and discussing the pros and cons of using them. But before we dive into this controversial topic, y'all best be hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already, and tell your friends about us. This channel has a plethora of technical content that you will not find on the Fitment Industries main channel. And of course, don't forget to head over to fitmentindustries.com for all of your wheel, tire, suspension, and spacer needs. And while you're there, check out our blogs. We actually started doing car reviews, and we're covering all kinds of other technical stuff. Anyway, what are wheel spacers and what are the pros? Wheel spacers are essentially just machined pucks that are put between your wheels and the hub to push the wheel and tire setup out further. Once you start approaching an inch of spacing or larger, you're going to be looking at an adapter style setup where you fasten the spacer to your factory lugs, and the spacer itself will have new ones protruding from it to mount your wheels directly to. There are roughly three main reasons why people use spacers. You're going to be looking at aesthetics, where pushing the wheel out a bit makes the vehicle look a little bit more aggressive. Second would be to increase performance by allowing for the use of a wider tire. And then to achieve a desired offset from the hub, either from mismeasured or misordered wheels, or simply that a desired wheel doesn't offer an offset that you need. With advantages like these, you might be wondering why anyone would dismiss something like this. It's true that there are great benefits to using spacers, but they also come with some unintended drawbacks. For example, they may increase the wear on your bearings, axles, and control arm components, since you're increasing the leverage on the stress they already see, depending on how far out you're going with your wheel offsets, of course. You're also running the risk of that extra leverage causing catastrophic failure. We've heard all about people's wheel studs breaking and sending their wheels into the stratosphere. There also have been reports of spacers essentially welding themselves to your wheels from corrosion with dissimilar metals, which results in the trusty sledgehammer being brought out, and you're going to damage your wheels doing that too. Spacers got a bad reputation in the community for a reason. Things do happen. A big first mistake a lot of people make when it comes to wheel spacers is getting one of poor quality. You see a lot of no-name, poor quality spacers on eBay that are sold for an extremely low price, and this is one of the reasons why people end up having a poor or catastrophic experience with spacers. When searching for spacers, there's going to be things that you want to look for, such as materials used, and if it has a hub-centric ring to aid with weight rotation, and what brand your product is coming from. All of these things are going to make a huge difference. A good example of a high quality spacer that we recommend you take a look at if you plan on getting spacers is the line of Adaptec spacers. They are made out of T6061 T6 aircraft grade aluminum with 10.1 grade steel studs and a hub-centric ring. The materials and build quality are going to set you up for success when running spacers. This is just one example of many out there. However, a good general rule of thumb is to go with a trusted brand to start with and look for quality and durable materials. The problem with cheaper spacers is that they're not very resistant to heat due to the lower melting point of the metals. You end up with problems such as your spacers getting nearly welded to the wheel through dissimilar metals going through heat expansion, or that the studs, while they may have the ability to support a wheel in standard testing, will not take well to the added leverage and abuse you will see in aggressive driving or a stance situation. This is the reason why you do not want to go for the cheapest spacers you can find. Like with any other aftermarket car parts, especially something designed for functionality, you can get junk that will make your driving experience worse than it was before. Having a spacer of good quality isn't the only thing that prevents you from issues though. The installation itself is going to make or break your experience. These things are attached to fast spinning wheels rolling down the road from anywhere between 1 and 200 plus miles an hour, depending on what you're doing.
Besides being crazy, apparently.
So proper fitting to ensure your wheel doesn't fly off is critical. Your most important rule to follow is assuring you have adequate threads on your lug lug bolts or lug nuts for proper torquing. For example, you should be able to rotate your bolts or nuts 7 to 8 times to get them seated properly. If you are unable to rotate your studs to this degree, then look for wheel spacers with extended lug studs included. Another thing to consider here that often gets overlooked is if you have a spacer that requires you to fasten it to the hub and then mount the wheel to the new spacer with its own studs, you do need to properly trim the factory studs. If you have a stud poking up even just a 1/4 of a millimeter, you're asking for disaster. The bigger your wheel spacer is, the more potential problems you may have, and thus you should proceed with caution if you are looking to go past a 25 millimeter spacer. There are complications with wheel spacers for sure, but using them correctly will yield rewarding results. If you are planning on getting yourself a set, just do your research and measurements. Follow proper instruction guidelines, and you will be on your way to a successful relationship with these controversial items. But that about covers it for the pros and cons of buying wheel spacers. What are your opinions on wheel spacers, and would you run them on your ride? Let me know in the comments. I try to respond to all of them. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and tell your friends about us. This channel has a ton of technical content that you will not find on the Fitment Industries main channel. And of course, don't forget to head over to fitmentindustries.com for all of your wheel, tire, suspension, and spacer needs. And while you're there, check out our blogs. We actually started doing car reviews and covering all kinds of other technical stuff. I'm Sean from Fitment Industries, SeanB.fi on Instagram. Thank you for watching. Deuces.